Housing and Urban Development, His Excellency Senator Amin Waziri Tambi of CFR, the Deputy Chairman, House Committee, Senate Committee on Land, Housing and Urban Development, Senator Victor Ome, the Chairman, House Committee on Urban Development and Regional Planning, Honorable Dr. Abiante Awaji, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Shoaib Mohammed Lamid Bolgore, ON, the distinguished chief executives of agencies, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, Office of the Surveyor General of the Federation, the distinguished stakeholders in the housing sector, and invited panelists and speakers, distinguished members and chairmen of the Housing Reform Tax Team, professionals from the private sector, the media and members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This is the first Housing and Urban Development Sector retreat we are holding as a ministry since assuming office 19 months ago. It did not have come at a time as we are just about to enter another budget year following the recent passage of the 2025 appropriation bill by the National Assembly. The retreat is also special due to the participation of the distinguished chairmen and members of the National Assembly committees that oversee our ministry. We are also joined by several other critical housing stakeholders, including chairmen and members of the reform task teams we set up, who have done excellent work, as well as professionals from the private sector. Today, we have gathered here a distinguished pool of personalities to brainstorm, interact, and share knowledge, ideas, and insights on how to actualize the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu CFR. Before I proceed, I want to take a moment to specifically appreciate the chairman and distinguished members of the National Assembly, because when the budget office presented their budget, the ministry initially received a significant reduction from the amount provided in 2024. We engaged with the National Assembly committees and they intervened to increase our budget by an additional 50 billion naira. In fact, they deserve a big round of applause. They deserve it on behalf of Nigerians. What they have done is not for us as individuals, but for many Nigerians who will benefit from the ministry's interventions. The additional job that will be created also, and the businesses and individuals that will be empowered through our increased capacity to offset inherited liabilities and the positive impact on the economy. Thank you, Your Excellencies. While we are deeply grateful for the increase, like Oliver Twist would like to ask for more. If you recall, we had made a strong case for an additional 360 billion to enable us expand the coverage and the spread of Mr. President's renewed hope estates to 18 more states, expand our urban renewal program to cover over 100 more sites, and also take care of liabilities alongside others. Though the 50 billion is a good start, we continue to engage with our National Assembly stakeholders who will hold in high esteem, as well as the Budget Office. In fact, I have set up a stakeholders management team led by the Honorable Minister of State, who will soon join us, and the Permanent Secretary, in whom I'm well pleased to ensure that we are proactive in carrying critical stakeholders along in all our activities. What I have been advocating for in line with the renewal agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu CFR is that as a country and as a government, we must prioritize housing as a catalyst for economic growth. Investment in housing and urban development is not only a moral necessity, but also an economic imperative. When we provide people with decent homes and build livable communities, we are not only improving their quality of life, making them proud and patriotic Nigerians, but we are also developing the economy and ensuring national security. Under the Renewed Hope agenda, Mr. President listed housing as a critical infrastructure in the same category as roads, bridges, and others, which we are engaging with relevant ministries and stakeholders in government to correct the continuing mismatch between the required interventions in housing and the budgetary allocation. It's a great irony that housing still receives only a fraction of what is allocated to other similar infrastructure sectors despite its massive potential as a catalyst for economic growth. So as stakeholders, you will agree that there have been several attempts by previous administrations over the past 50 years to fix Nigeria's housing problems. If you look at the state of the housing sector today, you will see that the results are not encouraging. We have a huge housing deficit, with the majority of Nigeria's 43 million households living in substandard housing. Additionally, the majority of our cities are surrounded by slums. Our sector is one that has suffered political neglect since the period immediately after independence, when emphasis was placed on the 5-year developmental plans as the vehicle for economic growth. So under the Renewed Hope agenda, we are determined to make a difference, we are optimistic and encouraged by the possibilities the future holds, rather than failures of the past. Just because programs failed in the past does not mean they will fail today. As you all know, leaders matter in the history of nation building, and what they bring to the table also matters. That is what Mr. President represents, and we intend to replicate his can-do spirit at the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, together with all stakeholders, to rewrite the history of housing and urban development. We want the Renewed Hope era for housing to be the reference point for generations to come for massive and comprehensive housing and urban development. We deliberately choose actualizing the Renewed Hope agenda for housing and urban development as the theme for this retreat. At this retreat, we aim to review what we have done so far toward actualizing Mr. President's Renewed Hope agenda for housing and urban development. We want to interrogate our challenges and successes, explore opportunities, and set out a clear pathway to ramp up the tempo of our activities. For the sake of establishing immediate context, it is important that I lay out the action plan which Mr. President handed to us when we assumed duty. This includes increasing the supply and availability of decent and affordable housing to Nigerians, implementing land reforms to improve land administration, thereby unlocking the capacity of the real estate sector to contribute to economic growth and grow the gross domestic products. Also, to reforming the federal housing institutions, including the Federal Housing Authority, FHA, and the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, to better deliver on their mandates. I'm happy the Chairman Senate Committee on Land, Housing, and Urban Development has started advocating for funding from the budget, funding the Federal Housing Authority to deliver more affordable social housing to Nigerians. Thank you for that. Also establishing a national social housing fund to mobilize and administer concessionary funding for the provision of decent shelter for no-income, low-income, underprivileged, and internally displaced Nigerians. Establishing also the manufacturing hubs, one in each of the 6 geographical zones of the country. Number 6 is implementing the multi-agency project delivery framework to ensure proper coordination among all housing institutions in the delivery of housing, ensuring alignment among the same focus. Last but not the least, expanding the National Urban Renewal and Slum Upgrade Program. So the question I ask myself is, how much progress have we made toward achieving these goals so far? If history were our reference point, we would say that we are doing well. The biggest achievement of the 8 years before we came on the board was the National Housing Program, which started in 2016 with plans to build 7,522 housing units. Over the 8 years, only 3,388 were completed. On our part, within 17 months, we have 14 active construction sites, for a total of 10,112 housing units. With the phase of work at these sites, many are already about to start painting. We are on course to have all these units and more completed within the maximum 2 years remaining for us. However, history is not our reference point. The size of the housing problem, which requires for us to build at least 550,000 housing units annually, is what we have set our eyes on. On this front, we are not even scratching the surface. Regarding the ministerial deliverables of increasing the supply of at least 20,000 housing units annually, which is our immediate target, we can say that with the 10,112 housing units under construction in 14 locations nationwide, we are making progress. Another area we are making good progress is in the reforming the land administration system in our country. This is a long-standing problem that has been listed in all policies and white papers on housing since independence over 50 years ago. The aim is to develop an effective land administration system to make land ownership available, secure, accessible, and easily transferable at affordable rates. First, we set up a land reform task team, which has submitted a comprehensive blueprint on strategies and initiatives that the ministry can implement to achieve effective governance on lands in our country. This is a subject of deliberation at this summit. Second, we are currently working with the World Bank in partnership with the state governments.